Hey, everybody, what's up? It's your boy MJ. Welcome to the Black Wine Guy Experience Before the Pour. My guests today are the co-founders of Legend Imports, Jonathan Ross and Jane. Is it Lopes or Lopez?
It's Lopes. Thanks for
Yeah,
asking.
I thought it was Lopes. Legend Imports launched in 2020. Together, Jane and Jonathan, sounds like a children's book. I love it. Shared a combined 6 years of work in Australia's most renowned restaurants and nearly 40 years combined in the wine industry. In Australia, Jonathan took the role of the Beverage Director for the premium restaurants of the world-renowned Rockpool Group. Jane has worked at many prestigious restaurants and bars such as the Violet Hour in Chicago, the Catbird Seat in Nashville, 11 Madison Park, EMP Posse is in the house, and Attica, which is apparently a good restaurant in Australia, but it's the name of a jail here. Jonathan was a member of the award-winning team at 11 Madison Park starting in 2012 and held the title of Head Sommelier from 2015. In 2018, Jane passed the Master Sommelier exam, becoming one of only 35 women in the world to ever do so. Jonathan and Jane are industry mentors and educators, and they're active in reforming the U.S. wine industry. Welcome, Jane and John. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think that's
Yeah.
more than enough. Thank you.
You're
We're very
welcome.
happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm really glad you guys are here. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so to warm us up, I'm going to start by asking you some personal questions. They're not really personal. Followed by James Lipton's famous 10 questions from inside the actor studio. So there's two of you, so we're just going to bounce between both of you, and you're each going to answer 10 questions. So, yeah, but it'll be 20 total questions with MJ, but 10 for you and 10 for you. All
Sounds
right?
good.
Jane, you ready?
Yep.
Boom. What's your favorite book?
House of Leaves
Ooh.
by Mark Danielewski.
All right. John, what is your favorite movie?
Batman.
Which
the
one? Which
Tim
one?
Burton one with Michael Keaton.
Okay. That's a good call. People sleep on that one, you know?
Both of those two, really that and Batman Returns with Danny DeVito as the Penguin. Those. And Roger Rabbit as a close third.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Okay, Jane, who's your favorite musical artist?
Gosh, that's tough. I'll do something really vanilla and say the Beatles.
That's not vanilla.
Beatles.
I mean, anybody who,
Greatest ever.
anybody who likes music will tell you the Beatles were amazing. And you're the second person to say that. Lyle Railsback was the Beatles.
Yeah.
She's in good company.
Yeah.
All right. John, what is your favorite food to eat? Death row, what are you having?
Ooh, like traditional large, like Jersey pizza. New York
Nice.
pizza, like not like the fancy brick oven stuff, like traditional, New York,
Hold
New
it.
Jersey, only place in the world that makes it.
Right. Like the big slice and pie.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Jane, who is your favorite athlete?
Oh, I'm not a huge sports person.
Well, we don't discriminate here
I feel
on
like
this
I'm
show.
getting the wrong questions for my interest. Gosh, I will say, can I hand this question to
Okay,
John?
so we'll start.
I
So
feel
John,
like he'll have
John,
more
who's your
educated.
favorite athlete?
Favorite athlete would be, it's all about growing up when I was a kid, so it has to be Patrick Ewing.
Nice. This guy's a New York guy through and through. Slices and Patrick. I love it, man. Okay, so all right, Jane. I don't know if it's going to be much better. Who was your favorite cartoon character as a child?
I'll say Doug.
Doug.
Watched a lot of Doug.
Okay. Nice. Okay, John. What was your favorite cereal when you weren't watching Doug with Jane because you didn't know her?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Oh, I love it. Old school, man. Just 155 grams of sugar per serving.
Exactly.
I actually like Cinnamon Toast Crunch as well.
All right. Okay, This one came out of like lockdown last year, so I was asking everybody, what is your favorite, or no, what is your current exercise routine?
I do a lot of yoga, but like a lot of arm balance yoga, so like handstands and forearm
Oh, you do the
stands and
gnarly
Like
stuff.
that. Yeah.
Okay, okay. John, who is your favorite comedian?
Robin Williams.
Nice. I think you're the second person to say that too. Classic dude. The dude was really good.
Yeah.
Super good. And I think people forget his stand-up because he did more comedian. But I remember, like, I'm older than you guys. I remember his, like, HBO Young Comedian special.
He's like crawling up
Yeah,
the stairs.
yeah.
This is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Jane, who would you most like to have a bottle of wine with?
Is it kind of a dead or alive situation?
Dead or alive?
William Shakespeare.
Oh, good one. Willie the Shake. Willie the Shake. Okay, so now we move into the 10 questions from inside the Actors Studio. And we go to you to start, Jonathan. What is your favorite word?
I've never thought of that before. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yes.
I don't know what it means, but I've heard it used before.
I don't know anybody knows what it means, but it means good at the end of the day. Okay, Jane, what is your least favorite word? And it better not be supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Least favorite word. It's a tough one. I'll say no. I mean, that's like a word no one likes to hear a lot.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a solid word we don't like to hear. Very solid answer. The survey says ding, ding, ding. It's number 2 answer. Okay, John, what turns you on?
Sunlight.
Now, Jane, what turns you off?
Sunlight.
See, you would have had the other one. You'd have had the other one, but we switched earlier.
Self-consciousness.
You mean like bad self-consciousness?
Yeah.
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 Because you could be self-conscious and be good.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
But yeah, I get it. Okay. John, what sound or noise do you love?
Sound or noise that I love. Let's say a saxophone.
This is just you drew the straw. What sound or noise do you hate, Jane?
A lot of them. I'm actually like very sensitive to loud noises, so like
New York City.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'll say a honking horn.
Got it. Ugh. That's a tough sound. Well, see, it did work out for you. All right. Jonathan, and I'm going to go back and forth, people. His name is Jonathan. Sorry. What's your favorite curse word?
Fuck, for sure.
Like, yeah, you definitely go up to the Tri-State area.
If you're going to go, you got to go all the way.
All right, Jane. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I'll go with professor. Part of me kind of wants to go with FBI agent, but I think I've probably glamorized that in my head a bit. I'll go with professor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. John, what profession would you not like to do?
Maybe something really boring, like an accountant.
That's you know what's so
it's
sad? That's what came to my mind.
The
I was
crazy
like,
thing is like since starting this business, I'm like so attached to
You are kind of
all
our
of that stuff,
accountant.
and our accountant has been the most wonderful, like helping. She's just amazing. So she's had a great impact on us. So I don't know, maybe I do want to be I like accountants.
Awesome. And lastly, Jane. And I actually did have an atheist on the show. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
If heaven exists, if God exists, I don't know. It's an open bar.
Awesome. An open bar. Come on. Well, that was definitely fun. And if you want more of Jane and Jonathan, and I know you do, make sure you tune into our episode of the Black Wine Guy Experience. Until next time, everybody, and the next time, and the next time, and the next time. Cheers. Hey, everybody, what's up? It's your boy MJ. Welcome to the Black Wine Guy Experience. My guests with an S today are the co-founders of Legend Imports, Jonathan Ross and Jane Lopes. Legend Imports launched in 2020. Happy anniversary.
Thanks.
Getting there, yeah.
Together, Jane and Jonathan share a combined 6 years of work in Australia's most renowned restaurants and nearly 40 years of combined experience in the wine industry. In Australia, Jonathan took on the role of Beverage Director for the premium restaurants at the world-renowned Rockpool Group. Jane has worked at many prestigious restaurants and bars such as the Violet Hour in Chicago, the Catbird Seat in Nashville, Tennessee, Eleven Madison Park in NYC, and Attica in Melbourne, Australia. Jonathan was a member of the award-winning wine team at 11 Madison Park. He started there in 2012 and held the title of Head Sommelier until 2015. Oh, it was from 2015 till you left?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Not the whole time.
Okay.
Had to earn it.
Good. Not wrong with earning stuff. And in 2018, Jane passed the Master Sommelier exam, becoming one of only 35 women in the world to ever do so. Jonathan and Jane are industry mentors and educators, and they are very active in reforming the U.S. wine industry. Welcome to the show, Jane and Jonathan. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Well, I'll add for John that he passed the Master Sommelier exam in 2017. Right? 2017?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
And
he got to keep his title.
Yes. And Jane was on the same team at EMP as I was. We worked together.
Awesome.
together.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that.
But yeah.
So, how we connected was, I connected with you guys basically through Instagram. I have a friend in Australia who's a mutual friend, and we were doing some IG lives, and I needed a wine. I needed an Australian wine, and I buy a lot of wine from the wine library. Gary V, I've been hitting your team up. You buy ridiculous amounts of wine for a little bit of money I make. And they actually had this, it was called Micro Wines, and it was this Cinsault, and I love Cinsault. I'm a sucker for Cinsault, particularly from like South Africa. So I was like, well, it's probably old vines, because there's so many old vines of the Rhone stuff in Australia, so I pick it up. And I think you guys caught the live or something, but I tagged, and you liked the post, and then we started following each other, and then it kind of became, and now we're here.
One thing led to another.
Yeah, one thing led to another. A DM here, a DM there. We're out west. We're gonna be on the East Coast, and they're on the East Coast. When people are on the East Coast, I will get into the studio with them. So I was like, when can you do it? And they have graciously showed up. So that's how we connected. Tell us about the wine we're drinking right now tonight.
So this is a producer, Henskins Rankin. It is a duo, a husband-wife team in Tasmania, Frida Henskins and David Rankin. I tasted these wines first when I was working at Attica in Australia, and I was just absolutely blown away. I thought it was the best Australian sparkling wine I'd ever had, and was up there with some of the best sparkling wine I've ever had. They are really impressive people. They work in sustainable agriculture and natural resource management, and also David's a statistics professor. They're just really impressive people, and just incredibly thoughtful. And they're relatively new on the scene in Australia. Obviously, this wine is, well, not obviously if you can't see it, but it's 2012. Their first wine was a 2010 vintage brut, but they didn't release it in Australia until 2018. So even though they've been making wine for 11 years now, they're very new on the Australian scene, and obviously very, very new on the American scene. But it was just sort of their ethos and their quality was something that we really were excited about and felt like Americans would get excited about as well.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, when you poured it, the nose was right up there. I was like, it's got like almost like a Dom Perignon nose, had that nice doughy, yeasty thing going on. Beautiful package, too. I just like it's very understated, which is really always nice in a champagne. I'm not too busy, but really delicious. So thank you for bringing some bubbles.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
The 11 has been and is in the U.S., and this is a bottle of the 2012 that they sent us with the 2011 back label on, just because that's what they had, so we can comply with the TTB
this is a
and
sample.
customs.
This is, but the 2011 is available
And
on the market right now.
And this will be in the States when the 2011 sells out.
What does something like this go for? Just curious.
This is expensive.
This is aside from the 100-year from Seppelsfield, this is the most expensive wine in our portfolio.
Well, except
producer.
their other two wines.
So this would be $100 retail.
Oh, but still, I mean, that's like grower champagne.
Exactly.
I'd have no problem paying right for that. Well, that's not.
We think it's what it should be,
Yeah.
And when we talked to them, they said they didn't see room for another $30 to $40 retail bottle of sparkling wine from somewhere in the New World that was made in a way to get it to that price point, and that they believe that luxury should be sustainable, or nice things, the good shit, should be sustainable, and that's what they do. So we're super happy and excited to work with them.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. I agree.
Yes.
So let's go. We're gonna talk for a little bit. We're gonna drink some bubbles, and I'm gonna say some stupid shit. So Jonathan, we warmed up. So I understand that you're a Jersey boy like myself.
Yes.
Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Morristown Hospital, but that's where I was born. But lived in, I guess, Bayonne, Jersey City, my very early part of my life, and my parents moved down to Monroe.
Okay.
Exit 8A.
Yeah.
Usually tuck that in there in case someone doesn't know. I guess we moved to, and that's where I grew up until I was, they still live there. My brother lives there.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've been living there for much
bit,
of the last year.
And you are a California girl, correct?
I am, yep.
Where'd you grow up?
I was born in Napa, actually.
Oh, wow.
And lived in Sonoma until I was 3 years old. Then we moved to Marin County, a little town called Tiburon.
Oh, my God. Tiburon's beautiful.
It is really beautiful.
Oh, it's ridiculously beautiful.
I know. I definitely did not appreciate that enough
you
growing
don't when
up.
You're done, right? You don't appreciate where you grow up.
I know. So that was, I was there through, 3 years old through the end of high school in the same house. And then spent a little time in LA, a little time in Chicago, a little time in Nashville, and then New York, where John and I met.
All right. And you guys met at, we'll get in it, but I assume 11 Madison Park? Or before that?
We actually met before that.
Okay.
We met at, a tasting group before I had started at EMP.
Okay, very cool. All right, so Jane, you have a degree in Renaissance literature from the University of Chicago, where fun goes to die.
That is what they say.
Do they say that?
Yeah, that is a saying, yes.
Yeah.
It is considered to be the most unfun university.
Wow, because your friends that I've met from there are really fun.
Yeah, but it's a certain kind of fun. I actually went my first year of college to USC, University of Southern California.
That sounds like fun.
Which, exactly. That's a school that most people consider fun, but it wasn't, I did not find it very fun. So U of C, University of Chicago was very fun for me, but it, fun fun in a much
Fun in a-
nerdier way.
Renaissance literature kind of way.
Exactly.
But that's, I mean, you're very smart to get into both those schools. So I'm a state school boy. I tell you what.
I'm good at school. I think that's what it's kind of come down to. I can get good scores on those tests, but I really did enjoy University of Chicago.
No, it's cool, and it's a great city. It's a great food city and whatnot. So
good.
But yeah, no, I used to work for someone who went there. Not fun. But a different age group, different time. So
No.
Sure, it was much more fun when you were there. Or because you were there. I mean, you brought a little USC flavor with you. So it's always interesting how people get into wine. So Jonathan, the research says, thanks God I have producers. You studied sports medicine and architecture before. Into wine and hospitality. Is that true, or what was
bounced
that about?
around a little bit. Out of high school, was an athlete in high school and decided sports medicine school, so I'm going to do that. And started to have too much fun in college, and college really was not a place for me to learn how to be an adult and have adult-like responsibilities. So college didn't work out, and then so ended up going to Mercer Community College for architecture for a year. And that was the whole time I was working in restaurants. And I was like, this is cool. So stopped going to school for architecture, worked in restaurants for a couple of years, and then actually went back to Middlesex County for some hospitality stuff. But so just kind of found it in a roundabout way.
Very cool. Very cool.
I was not good at school like James was.
Well,
I didn't try.
I was
That's
going to say,
what it was.
but what I mean, what does good at school mean? I mean, it took me 6 years to graduate, so I would think I was good at school.
Right.
I guess I was good at making it last.
I feel like it's maybe not necessarily good at school. Wine was probably the only thing I ever actually tried to study. So in the school process, I never applied myself. I don't know.
No, I kind of get that.
Sound
I
like
mean,
my parents.
no, but it's true. I think one of the things is that you have to be interested in something, right? So I asked you a question when we were warming up. Who would you most want to have a bottle of wine with? And you said William Shakespeare, and you have a degree in Renaissance literature. That makes sense. Like you actually, and there's nothing. I mean, it's great. You enjoy that period of time, and you could apply yourself to it. Where, I was same as you. I was an athlete. I went to college because I got a scholarship, and I wanted to keep doing sports.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with school, and then bounced around here, bounced around there, did this, did that, and then I was like, all right, let me finish school, but I don't use my graduate degree to this day. So like I get like,
right.
When I fell into wine, same thing. I was like, wow, this is interesting. I could study this. It's like, for whatever reason, it like kind of hooked me,
Yeah.
So, and I also think, in America, hospitality is not seen as a worthy occupation, right? So over in Europe, people are, in France, Paris, there's guys have been waiters. Like those jobs get handed down. They're like generational. Whereas here, it's like, oh, what do you wait on people? And so it's kind of
What do you actually want to do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Like,
Yeah, totally.
But I think that's great that you guys both found that. And then you were saying that you worked in restaurants the whole time. How about you, Jane? How did you kind of shift into wine and hospitality?
Yeah, I mean, when I graduated U of C, and a fun statistic about University of Chicago, 25% of people who graduate from the undergrad go on to get a PhD, 25%. So that doesn't include people who get master's degrees. So it's kind of like, it's really a farm for kind of producing academics. So I definitely kind of fell into that trap and was planning to, take a year off and apply to graduate programs and get a PhD and be a professor. And I just needed a job. I applied for a job to work in the admissions department at U of C. I didn't get that job. So I was just, on Craigslist looking for a job and saw a job listing to work in a wine shop. And I'd always not always, I mean, for, the 2 years I've been drinking, really, I liked wine. I studied abroad in Italy and really enjoyed drinking wine there, and I just thought that could be a fun job. I knew very little about wine, but they hired me anyway. But within a few months, I knew I wasn't going to turn in those grad school applications, that I really loved that wine. It is very academic, but it's also much more, it's social, experiential. It really appealed to me in so many ways. So I just kind of knew I was going to stay on that track. I didn't know exactly what part of the industry it would lead me to, but yeah, that was it.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I would agree with everything you said. Although you're also the second guest. It's funny as we go through these things that was on Craigslist. like Craigslist is like, it's still there, people. I'm sure the kids don't know what Craigslist is, but it's still viable.
Yeah, I wonder that if
I found my first job in New York on Craigslist, and before that, it was in newspapers.
What's that? No, I'm just kidding. Most people listen. I know the demographics would know what that is, but there's a whole different, like, what's a newspaper?
People are just thinking, wow, he's old.
I told my nieces I was older than the internet, and they're like, no, you're not. It's not possible. I was like, yeah, it is.
So, I mean, you guys are an accomplished couple. I mean, Jane, you were featured 2015, featured Esquire Network's Uncorked, which I liked Esquire Network. What happened to it? I liked that show, The Getaway, the weekend, where people would go away for the weekend.
I haven't seen it.
She's like, I don't know, I was on the show. I didn't watch it. I'm busy. I'm reading Shakespeare and drinking wine. I don't have time to watch the network one. But anyway, tell us about this Uncorked show, which I'm going to have to go see if I can find.
Yeah, it was an experience. So it was set in New York, so it kind of profiled a handful of us who were sitting for the MS exam in 2015.
Okay.
And it was, I think after, we all saw Somm, and I'm good friends with Jason Wise, and I think he did a really great job with that movie, but there wasn't a woman taking that exam.
There was not a woman taking that exam. That's correct.
So I kind of felt, and I was the only woman they were talking to. I think they were talking to Jordan Salcedo too, and she decided not to do it. And so I was like, if I don't do this, there's again no woman. So I was like, okay, let's do it. Even though I had and have pretty severe kind of anxiety issues, I just was like, I'm gonna do it. So so I did it, and it was. It was definitely stressful. Kind of that process in general is very stressful, and then doing it in front of cameras, and the idea that people are going to be anywhere in the world could be watching this. But I'm glad I did. It was also kind of a cool relic of that was the kind of the beginning of John and my relationship. So some of that is captured on the TV show too, because John wasn't originally someone they were following.
I was the boyfriend.
But yeah,
right.
But he was
the
also
love interest.
Yeah. But then they realized that he was kind of really good and he was winning all the competitions, and they're like, I guess we better make this guy a feature too. So, it was fun. It was an experience. I definitely still get people who reach out to me about it, or when we moved to Australia, a lot of people had seen it. So it was a unique experience. I don't think I'm eager to be on a television show again, but I don't regret it. So
what's that like? So you're in Australia, and then someone comes like, hey, you in that thing, right? I mean, what is that like to people like?
I mean, for me, I found it a little bit stressful because there were literally scenes of me decanting a bottle and shaking, visibly shaking. You can see it on the television because I was, so nervous. And so for me, especially because, the way anxiety works is you have to hide it from everyone, and so that was, very stressful that it kind of sort of broke this facade I was trying to build of perfection. but it was also really cool in a sense because a lot of people did reach out to me and say it's so cool to see that someone else has nerve problems, and that made me feel so much better about continuing in this world. And so it was mixed emotions.
Gotcha. How about you, who kind of just Steen Sealer?
Yeah, exactly. John just got to be the cool kid.
I mean, yeah, it was interesting. I think I remember, it was just another Somm that was dating someone on the show, and then they were filming essentially the top Somm competitions, the regional things, and so on. And because I won them, they had to include me in the footage. If I didn't
And the
win,
winner
it would've
is,
been-
I know, right? And the
they're
winner
like,
is,
shit,
damn
he's
it.
not on the- I guess we gotta. So that's kind of, and it was. I mean, it was one of those things where I remember, we took. It goes through the MS exam, and the first time, I guess that was the first time we took. Second time I took theory, first time you took theory, something like that, and like us both not passing, and
Your third time.
my third time is it. But it's definitely a little bit of invasive experience. I remember doing like service competitions and like walking into a camera too and stuff like that, which is just weird and unique. But yeah, it was an experience.
So, as you're talking, tell people a little about these regional competitions, because I think people, like, you watch the Somm series and you get there's a lot of study, but it's like sports almost, right? I mean, it's like,
Yeah, I mean, so essentially a competition like that would start off with an online national theory exam, but you'd be broken up into 5 regions across the country, and then the top 10 or 8 people in that would be invited to a competition that was similar to an exam. So there'd be a blind tasting component, a service component, and a theory component again. And it was just always like, you win, you move on, you win, you move on, and
Yeah, I mean, there aren't too many in the U.S. anymore. I know the Shenda Rotosaurus still does theirs, or at least did pre-COVID. I think are getting back into it. I think I found it to be valuable in terms of meeting sommeliers from across the country and also building your skills. But I think this industry does have a little bit of a problem with sort of wanting to judge people and not wanting to kind of help them. And that was something I found frustrating. I remember on the TV show, there was kind of a competition we did for the TV show, and then there was Master Sommeliers, critiquing on air what we were doing, and it was kind of like, and I remember one of the Master Sommeliers was critiquing my use of an also. It was like, why don't we do something to show people how to use it instead? Like, I just remember, and I remember somms who have worked for me, not knowing how to use it, and that's fine, because it's not like this was an exam that you taught me this thing and then I didn't pay attention and I didn't learn it. Like, no one's taught me it. So, and that's, I think, a huge problem in our industry is we don't have a strong educational system. We have a strong judgment system.
wow.
Which doesn't feel good for anyone.
Which doesn't feel good for anybody, and
doesn't accomplish anything.
Doesn't really lead to growth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, what, you don't know what that is? Like, it made it feel bad. Like, no.
Exactly.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
studying. I'm like,
Right.
I
Can you
Teach
tell
me.
me?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
tell people all the time, I'm like, I'm glad I don't know everything. That's why I'm not a Somm. Don't want to know everything. So, you guys met, you're dating, you're both taking the exam, and then you're working at 11 Madison Park. Who was working there when you were there, who people might know?
So I was hired I started in February 2012. Dustin Wilson hired me, and it was the old crew. Jeff Taylor was there, Chase Dubay, and
Cedric Nicaise was hired.
Cedric and I were hired at the same time. And yeah, Danny Meyer had sold them the restaurant 4 months prior, and then Nomad was set to open later that year.
Okay. And then at one point you were head Somm for 5 years. Like, how's it to work through the ranks at some place like that? Like,
it was one of those scenarios where Somms it was kind of the one part of the restaurant where you needed some level of outside experience or education, where they couldn't teach you to work with, thousands of different bottles of wine just from being there for a little while. It would take years and years and years. So the sommelier positions were often brought in from outside, but you would then spend quite a bit of time training through all of the ranks of the restaurant. But there was kind of some level of fast track. So you really kind of had to earn the trust and respect of your team to then be able to take on what was somewhat of a leadership position as a sommelier in that restaurant.
mm-hmm.
And then, it was kind of just I guess it was maybe more attrition. You know, Jeff was this head som, and then and Jeff left, and Cedric was made. You know, it was kind of just, you know, other people left. Cedric became head som, and then, you know, Dustin left, and Cedric became wine director, and I became head som. It was very much just like, you know, who hadn't left kind of thing.
He got the job by default. Is what he's saying.
It was like, I'm the oldest one here.
Well, perseverance and, you know.
Sure, but and you become, you know the guests, you know the systems, you know what's going on, and so on. And but yeah, so it was kind of putting in the time and so on. So it was the last 2 years, and Jane was essentially there for the last 2.5 years. I think you were probably Dustin's last hire or something like that, close to it. And yeah.
So yeah, I was so like, how did you, like you said earlier, you met in the tasting group, but how did you come on board at EMP, and like what was your path?
So I had been working, when I moved to New York, I worked at Maialino for a bit before Maialino had any sommeliers. So it was Liz Nicholson was the wine director, and she kind of, you know, did a lot of staff trainings, and it was a very wine knowledgeable staff, but no som. So I was actually bartending there. I then got a job as a som at Ristorante Marini with the Alta Group, and worked with Victoria James there and Richard Anderson, who are still some of my favorite people. But one night I got an email from Dustin Wilson, and it just said, you know, looking for a som. I forget what the phrasing was. It was clear he didn't, and I had expressed to Dustin that I was looking to kind of for something else. And he, you know, he's a really good guy. He's not trying to poach anyone's staff members, but kind of worded in a way of like, do I know anyone? And, you know, for me, it was kind of the dream job. And I really had so much admiration for the restaurant. I had dined there the year before. It was a little tricky because John and I had actually previously dated.
Okay.
And we were not on the best of terms.
So, and it's all out there in Jane's book, so we might as well talk about it here. And, you know, but we were very much off in a 1.5 year on and off relationship that was mainly that was all my poor judgment.
It always is our fault. I mean, let's be 100.
Totally. And I just remember we're looking and we're standing in the service station, and it's me, Cedric, and Dustin. I was like, you should reach out to Jane. She'll work here. She's the person for the job. And he looks at me. He's like, "Are you sure you guys can work together?" And I was like, "Yes, you need to offer her a job." And he just literally ran to the office to write her an email. And Cedric and I looked at each other, and he's like, "Dude," I was like, it's going to be terrible or we're going to get married. And here we are.
That's how most love stories go. Right?
Yeah. So yeah, you know.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
The book. How we miss the book? Tell us about the book.
It happens later, but.
What's the name of your book, by the way?
The name of my book is Vignette. I will send you a copy.
Oh, awesome.
So the book came about, I had actually done an interview with my alumni magazine at University of Chicago, just talking about wine and cocktails, and a literary agent who was also a alum of U of C and lived in New York. He read it and he reached out to me on, I think, Twitter. He sent me a DM on Twitter and said, "You should write a book. Let's meet up. Let's have coffee." So I had coffee with this guy, and you know, he kind of wanted me to write like a tell-all confessional of the wine industry, which I didn't want to write, but it was the impetus for me to say like, hey, I could write a book. Like I've trained in writing. I know books. Like. And so I kind of very quickly sort of came up with this concept of what I wanted the book to be. I wanted it to be part personal narrative, you know, talking about my story in regards to in regards to the MS, in regards to health, in regards to just kind of almost like coming of age in this industry. But then I also wanted to kind of incorporate wine information. So each chapter is sort of a different style of wine that played a part in a kind of a story in my life. And then after that, chapters overall include a bit of sort of educational material about that style of wine in a pretty fun visual way. Lots of maps and charts and graphs and illustrations.
There's a mini graphic novel and a crossword puzzle, and
I was gonna like, do you have a coloring book? That would be more suitable for me.
I mean, there's a word search. Like it's like it's fun. I really wanted it to be like approachable for anyone, but also hopefully engaging for the kind of the expert too.
So, what wine corresponds to your on again, off again with John?
Well, there's a few in the saga, but the the main one that kind of symbolized our relationship was Barolo. Because for a few different reasons, I think when I came to dine at 11 Madison Park, John served us a magnum of Barolo, and one of our first dates we drank Barolo, and it kind of became sort of our wine. It's an expensive wine to be your wine, but we can drink some Longue Nebbiolo when we're not feeling like going for the full Barolo.
The full Barolo. That sounds like a movie. The full Barolo.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. So, that is so funny. I can literally see this guy like, this is the coolest alum of the University of Chicago ever.
Right.
She needs to write a book.
Why is she so fun? She
It's
works
like,
with wine.
I know, oh my God, she works in the wine. She's at the best restaurants.
How did she go to UFC?
They're like, wow.
We don't teach that
Exactly.
stuff.
Wow. I could just see her like, wow. You must be like an icon. They're going to have a statue of you there, like, open a bottle, swirling or something. No, that's very cool. And I also love that he reached out to you on Twitter.
Yeah, it's lucky I saw it. I'm definitely not on Twitter very often.
We got Craigslist, we got Twitter, we got email, we got the full electronic.
Very modern.
Yes, it's a very modern wine tale going on here. So, how long were you at EMP, Jonathan? How long were you guys there the same amount of time? I mean, obviously, I think you were there longer, but did you leave at the same time? Like,
Yeah, so I was there for about 5.5 years, and towards the end, I was looking. I was ready to find something else to fulfill myself, but really couldn't in the world, in the New York wine world, but was still there, and you know, we were about to be named the best restaurant in the world, and all these things, and you know, Jane had given notice a few, I guess, in November of 2016, and a friend of ours who is now in Australia was working at the restaurant Attica, who we worked with at EMP, and was like, messaged Jane when he found out she gave notice and said, hey, come be my wine director at Attica in Australia. Like, haha, Australia. And we kind of just looked at each other one day and we're like, we should go. And that's a short narrative of it. Jane actually had a lot of conversations with them and realized how wonderful they were to work with. And so we left for the same reason. I left about 6 or 7 weeks after Jane.
Okay.
You know, EMP was a unique place. I think Jane gave notice at the beginning of December and left Valentine's Day-ish, the beginning of February. I essentially gave notice around the same time because we knew we were moving. And I was actually asked to stay through Memorial Day. And I said, no, I'm going to leave end of March, which was an interesting moment. So yeah, we left at the same time. Jane had sorted out where we were going to live in Australia. I sold all the stuff in our apartment here and went down. And
so yeah, I think I started about 2.5 years after John at EMP. So he predated me by.
I didn't answer the question, did I?
It's a podcast, man.
John's like, let me tell you this.
It's a podcast. We talk. It's fine. So, yeah, to answer the question, we'll go to Jane. So you get offered this job down there, and you're like, and then you're like, this is what we're doing. What was the conversations that went on with Jonathan?
You know, I'd had a couple really good phone calls with them, and I was just like, seemed like great people. It seems like a great place to work. It would be, you know, being the wine director at a 50 best restaurant, which there, you know, aren't a lot of women in those positions.
And there's only 50 restaurants, so
Yeah,
I mean, so
but I think there
it's
was
tough
like
on two levels.
one.
There's
there
only
was
gonna
like
be,
one
that's
woman.
going to be 50. Exactly, it's going to be twice as tough, right?
Yeah.
And that's an issue. I know you guys will get in that later about how you again reform the industry, but yeah, like it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah. But you know, it was really John. Like there was one night that I was off and he was working and got home from work and he was like, "Let's move to Australia." And I don't think I'd even been offered the job yet at that point, but it was, you know, it was just like, we kind of felt like we'd be silly not to, you know, here's this opportunity to go live in literally the other side of the world, get to know really intimately wine regions we've, you know, never been to before. You know, it was kind of like, why not? So we did.
Yeah.
So you had a job. Did you have a job moving down there?
No. So we knew that the 50 best stuff was happening in Melbourne that year.
Yep.
So I had, you know, just found people's emails that worked for that organization and was like, hey, you're going to be in Australia. I work at this restaurant that is on your list every now and then. Can I like get a job at the festival? I'm just going to move down there. So it was coinciding with the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival. So I was able to like work as a waiter in the like pop-up restaurant that was always going to be open at the center of like the Food and Wine Festival. So I was able to like instantly meet a bunch of people that were working locally in the industry, winemakers, people that worked in restaurants and so on, which was a kind of a great immersion and like was a little bit of, you know, tiny bit of cash in the pocket for a week. And then it was just like, man, Australia, like I just want to explore. I'm going to go work on a scuba diving boat. I'm going to go do this. I'm not going to do anything with wine. Like I just want to like live a different life in Australia. And a couple of weeks later, I was, you know, was offered a role with a restaurant group called the Lucas Group. We opened a pretty ambitious restaurant together for their group. And then I went to and that group was an experience. It wasn't the greatest experience, but it was an experience. And we, and then came back to the U.S. in, I guess, September of that year, after being in Australia for about 6 months to take the last section of the MS exam. And then, you know, when I was about to leave, and this was when, you know, really excited about that and so on, and they're like instantly emailing me, say, hey, we're going to put this out that like, we now have our own MS and this and that. And I'm like, well, you know, you don't own me. And, you know, these aren't really like, look at these posts that like, just be a little more like, I don't know, human about it. And it really just pointed me in a direction that a lot of other people in the industry saying that you needed to move on. So I left that role after I got back and went and worked Harvest that kind of 2018 and then started working at the Rockpool Group. But yes, did not have a job when I got to Australia.
So you brought up the MS, which you passed in 2017?
17, yeah.
Okay. And then Jane, you passed in 2018?
Yes.
Are there any other Master Somm married couples in the world?
There were no.
I think Lindsay.
There are MS couples that are married now, though they were married and started their relationship after passing.
Okay.
But it's not very common.
No.
Yeah, no, that's. I mean, you're not common. I mean, so like, you were in Australia when you were studying for the exam. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was.
Jane was studying for theory, writing a book, and planning a wedding in the same year.
And I had a full-time job.
And you're like scuba diving.
Yeah.
Talking about, I'm going to do something completely. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I took it the first time in 2015, didn't pass theory, and I was gonna take it again in 2017. I was planning to take Europe, take it again in 2017, but that's when, you know, I got offered the job at Attica, so I postponed it a year, and then picked it back up in 2018. Yeah.
So there's been a lot going on with them over the course of the last year. I don't know where you two stand. What, like I know some people have stepped away. I don't know. I don't know I mean, you're only one of like 35 women or something in the world to pass.
Well, I don't know. I don't actually. I think that number was the statistic at the time I passed, but I guess there haven't been a whole lot of people since then. But I mean, I don't know how much the 2018 cheating scandal and
right.
all
Yeah,
that
I remember
stuff.
that
So
one. Yeah, yeah.
I made the choice to walk away, and I didn't retest after that. So
Were you one of the persons they voided?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
She
shit.
found out via social media one morning because they didn't call her on time with the time difference.
Yeah, it was brutal. You know, I think it's like anything that you kind of, I don't know, put up on a pedestal and realize it isn't what you thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, and I you know, it was definitely a hard adjustment because I think that John and I both felt like we wanted to pass this exam so that we could turn around and be mentors and educate people and be that person, be that role in the industry. And so that, I think, was disappointing just to feel like, well, that's not going to be our outlet, at least my outlet for, you know, to be kind of a mentor and a leader in the industry. But, you know, I think, you know, I kind of got dragged back into things a bit last year with the sexual harassment article in the New York Times.
Yeah.
But, you know, for me, I have a lot of respect for a lot of people who are Master Sommeliers. I don't think, clearly it's not been a terribly safe space for a lot of people for a lot of reasons. And I don't, so I'm happy to kind of pursue, you know, opportunities to be a leader and a mentor in other spaces is, I guess, what I'll say. John might have some harsher words.
Yeah, sure.
And so she threw it up there.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I passed in 17, we hadn't really been privy to anything that was really going on aside from what we thought this idealistic organization was. And soon after, I remember there was this conversation on GuildSom, which is kind of a community forum, an industry forum, and then about, you know, questioning kind of the demographics of an advanced exam. And a few of us chimed in on the internal forum for the membership of the CMS, and we were like, hey, we should like look at numbers and publish numbers and at least like show that we're talking about this so we can recognize things that we need to work on. And it was instantly shut down. And it kind of just kept snowballing, and the writing on the wall kept coming forward. And then after 2018, myself along with a few other guys, Bobby Stuckey, Ken Fredrickson, Richard Betts, Dustin, Andrew Robinson for a bit, we kind of were just taking our own time and resources. We hired a lawyer. We really kind of went at the CMS for about 2 years pretty strong. We were in boardrooms with them, with lawyers. We really threatened everything. They sued one of the people in Jane's class for using the initials MS on a LinkedIn profile when he was like, screw you, I passed my exam. I'm going to, you know, do whatever. And then just like the past year, it's just a continuation of their follies, and then showing the larger follies and issues with the organization. You know, and now just watching and listening to what they're saying and what they're doing, I don't believe that they are making changes because they want to be a different organization. I believe it's solely from a place of self-preservation.
And you know, and sadly, that's for most people, that's human nature. Change is really hard, and especially in institutions.
Yes.
And so, and this is just institutions across the board, like that they are going to do what they have to do. Self-preservation is a human instinct, and you know, I do have a law degree, so I look at things a little differently. So I look back, like, you know, and you can see where, you know, you can see intent is what I'm saying. You can see if it's genuine, or if it's like it's spin, if it's CYA, cover your ass, and you know. And we all, I think everybody's experienced that. It's like when you realize your dad's not Superman. Like it's that thing when the world comes crashing in.
Yes.
But I think for a lot of people, like that's got to be, you know, you're like you're at the top of your game, and you realize I don't even know what it means to be at the top of my game anymore. So that's, I mean, kudos to you guys for being able to make a pivot. And I like something you said. I think you don't have to have a title to be a leader. Matter of fact, the best leaders, it's quantum leadership. It's the private who leads the troops. It's not the general who has all. It's the person who's actually in the trenches, who's actually can do more leading from time to time. Because, you know, we change as we get titles sometimes. Some of us tend to change, right? We start out with good intentions and like, oh, you know, like Dustin was on here. I was like, you could have cruised. Like, why? Like, you're a white dude. You got your MS. Why are you like trying to take the hill? And he's like, that's just who he is, right? And like Bobby's a leader.
Yep.
Bobby probably saved restaurants in America.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, can't wait to have you on the show, Bob. You know I love you, man. So we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna come back, and then we're gonna talk about the legend from Down Under. Okay, we are back with Jonathan Ross and Jane Lopes, or let me do this right. Jane Lopes and Jonathan Ross.
There we go.
Of Legend Imports. All right. So you guys worked at Attica. How long did you work at Attica? And then
I was at Attica just over 3 years.
just over 3 years. Okay.
In order for us to stay in Australia and have work rights, Jane had to work at Attica.
Got it. Yeah, immigration laws.
Yeah.
They have them around the world, people, just in case you know. The immigration policies are a thing. And most of them are stricter than ours. Not saying we need to change that, but people need to get, I mean, like, you got to have a job to get into New Zealand. You got to have a job to be in Australia. Like,
Yeah.
you're not hanging out. So then what happens? You just guys at home like, honey, let's start our own company. What happened?
You know, the discussion started pretty early on in our time in Australia. We, you know, I think, at least for me, and I think I've historically been a little bit more close-minded about wine than John has. But I was, you know, we were New York somms who drank a lot of clearly Barolo in Burgundy and Champagne and German Riesling and all that. And, you know, I wasn't expecting to go to Australia and actually, like, really love the wine. You know, I wanted to learn about it. I was interested. I wanted to visit all these wine regions.
Did you have fruit bomb bias?
Totally.
Yeah.
Because that's what we'd seen. You know, you'd seen the big Shiraz, and maybe you'd seen a Clare Valley Riesling, but that was kind of it. And so I was interested, but wasn't expecting to really fall in love with the wine the way we did. Like, you know, most of what we drank when we lived in Australia was Australian wine, just because we loved it.
I mean, when we were at EMP, you know, Gordon Little started and Vine Street started bringing in a few things. So we had some Akota barrels and some Jan Street and things like that. And we thought those were unique among a sea of mediocrity. And we got there and quickly realized that it was the opposite. And, you know, those guys like Luke Lambert and Mac Forbes, people that we've become friendly with and close with. I spent pretty much all harvest living, you know, down the street from Mac and working with Mac, and realized that there's just so many people in Australia that are doing incredible work that were not here. And we realized soon after that when we did come back to the U.S., we were going to bring Australia with us.
No, I was just going to say, so that was the plan, and we had this business plan worked out, and, you know, we had some investor conversations and all that stuff.
We were going to try and start it while we were in Australia, actually, and then we realized we had to come back and tell the story ourselves. We kept kind of messing around with it, and just it was going to be too difficult, and it probably wouldn't have landed well if we started while we were there.
Yeah. So the plan was always to start mid-2020, and then, of course, 2020 hit, and we're like, what do we do?
Yeah.
You know,
investors don't answer emails.
No one wanted to talk
to you.
It's like address not found.
Right. And
totally.
And we had we both left our day jobs March 7th of 2020 as planned. I had harvest for my wines and was focusing on that. Jane went to New Zealand with a few friends for a couple weeks, and then after harvest was done, it was a pretty early compacted season, so probably by the first week of April, we were going to hit the road, and we were going to do like a month-long road trip before we left, and then come back to the U.S. And all of that stopped.
Can we back up for 1 second?
Yes.
So,
sorry.
No, it's all good. That's just I'm getting better at not cutting my guests off. I think that you said when you were Australia, you drink mostly Australian wine. So like, what was that like? So you come from the States. What type of wine list, what type of beverage program did you put together, and what was the expectation? Was it to be old world? Like, talk about that, having an idea about Australian wines, and then coming to be the wine director.
Yeah.
In an Australian restaurant.
It was definitely a bit intimidating, and I think if I had kind of wanted to play it safe, I would have just done a largely old world list, because in the context of that, I'm as much an expert as anyone else, you know. But coming to Australia and not being as familiar with Australian wines, there was definitely playing a lot of catch up. But I also, you know, I immediately kind of looking at the list and also the philosophy of the restaurant, which was all about kind of native Australian foods and local foods. It was just very clear that wine list should be a very local list. So my goal, you know, it was a small enough list, a small enough program that I wasn't going to have, you know, be a, you know, crazy sort of wine spectator award, all, you know, 25 vintages of Penfolds Grange, that sort of stuff. So I really just narrowed the scope to just Victorian wine regions. And I just said, I want to have a great, it's going to be small, but a great Victorian wine list. And then I wanted to balance it with old world wines, because the point I was trying to make was a great Shiraz from Heathcote should be on the same exact page as a great Syrah from Côte Rôtie, and they should be in conversation. And I really felt like that Australia held its own, you know, against those sort of historic old world wine regions.
So Victoria, tell people, because most people don't know about Australian wines, for being honest. I mean, they're just like either they know Yellowtail or they know Torbrick or something like that, you know. But you're like, so like Southeast Australia, where's Victoria in relationship? Western Australia, where's Victoria region?
Victoria is the state. It's the very southeast corner
Okay.
of Australia, of the mainland. Then you have Tasmania, which is sort of the state that's the island state that's off the coast.
It's like the Puerto Rico of Australia. I just made that up. And what do they like, you know, in old world people, or, you know, specialize? What is there a specialty in Victoria?
So Victoria would be the coolest mainland climate and also the most diverse climate. So you can see everything from age-worthy, kind of moderate alcohol styles of Cabernet, to some kind of generous styles of Shiraz, to really clean, kind of delicate, linear styles of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir and Riesling and everything in between. It's a hot spot for Italian grapes. There's more Italian grapes planted in Australia than anywhere else outside of Italy.
Whoa! See, now you got me going, because I'm a
wild.
fan of, I call them Calatales. I love Italian grapes grown in different climates for some reason.
So we work with a producer named Chalmers, who started a nursery in the 80s, focused on bringing Mediterranean varieties and things that are more suited for Australia, or just to kind of experiment in making Australian wine with grapes that are as foreign as Chardonnay or Pinot Noir, just happen to be from Italy or Greece or whatever. And another producer, Fighting Gully Road, that we work with is another viticulturist who also was involved in that kind of movement. And I mean, there's everything, like literally any Italian grape you could think of. It's either in their nursery getting ready and propagated for vineyard establishment, or is in vineyards. Everything from Verdicchio and Norello Mascalese to Colorino and
Palangina,
every Lambrusco
Schioppettino,
variety, like it's nuts. Nebbiolas
Malvasia.
everywhere. One of the restaurants that I was working with was an Italian restaurant, and a guest asked me for Nebbiolo, and I opened to the Barolo page, and this literally happened. I opened to the Barolo page, and I'm like, Nebbiolo is not from Italy.
So I love that. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's wine, you know, like that's that's wine. Like selling wine at retail. I have a little retail job to keep, just so it's fun. And someone's like, I want a red Burgundy, and they didn't know red Burgundy was Pinot Noir.
Right.
People don't. They just like and it's funny because they say it to be fancy. I want a Burgundy,
Right?
White or red.
They're like,
They're like, I'm like, okay. They're like, no, that says Pinot Noir because it's like the Favely, and
Yeah,
they only
yeah.
spend like $20, right? So it's a Favely Bourgogne, so it puts Pinot Noir for Americans. I'm like, wait, it says Pinot Noir. I'm like, yes, all red Burgundy is Pinot Noir.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. That's so. So you go there, and you guys love Barolo. So what's like what happened? Like, did you say, let's try this Nebbiolo? Like, what wine? Like, what's like the best Nebbiolo from Australia you two have had?
Definitely Luke's, right?
Luke
Or the
Lambert's
Pippin Steel.
Nebbiolo is really good. Giaconda makes a great Nebbiolo. There's a lot of them, honestly. Like, it's a grape that has found a lot of success. I think honestly the only ones I've had that I haven't been crazy about is, sometimes Australian wine can get that eucalyptusy thing.
Yeah.
And that if it's if that's too strong, it can be distracting. But in general, there's just a lot of people doing cool stuff with Nebbiolo, some great Sangioveses. But that we're bringing in from Chalmers Nero d'Avola that they make. That's delicious. Their Greco is fantastic.
Aglianico Rosé, Vermentino.
Yeah, it's very fun and I think with a lot of what I've found with a lot Italian grapes, but also other grapes, Australia can do things very well in a very varietal way. Classic varietal characteristics, but that it's just a little bit more sunshine, a little bit more fruit, a little bit more softness.
Like California. I mean,
yeah.
I think we in California, some people can go over the top with the ripeness, but I remember watching PBS and watching Jacques Pepin, and I remember him saying he likes American wines. He said, why? I said, they're a little bit riper. Grape is a fruit, so I think if you can rein it in, so I could see that being just like, I love Sangiovese. I can't wait. I can't wait to go to your tasting.
Yes.
Because I love Sangiovese. I love Barbera, and I love it when it's just a little bit riper, just a little bit riper.
Totally.
I'm trying to think I think only the Greco's going to be there. Greco's good though.
Greco's so good.
And I think I've saw and I've heard about the Nero d'Avola, but I think that's fantastic. So you curate this list. It's local. Did you win any awards? I mean, was it like the American comes over and rocks our wine world?
There is like Australians love shows and awards, and there's lots of those.
I know. That's why I asked.
So there's a kind of the wine list of the year awards that I think the first year we always won the non-alcoholic award because we had a really good non-alcoholic program of pairings and different kind of fresh juices from native ingredients that you could get. So we always kind of won that award, and I kind of always been a runner-up for kind of the list of the year, or the like state's best list, and then actually the year I left. So like that was one of the last things I did before I left was kind of send off the application. You send your list over, and then I guess it was late last year I got an email or a phone call, and I don't think they had my number, but the guy had John's number. So John's talking to the guy who runs the program, and the Attica listed won the best wine list. So that was cool. It was kind of my last hurrah, and so kind of celebrated that in tandem with the guy who had been my number 2 while I was there, who took over my position, who's really talented and a great guy. So we kind of jointly accepted that award. So that was cool. It was very, very nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we were talking just a few moments ago before I started just getting so excited about more Italian varietals. The most planted Italian varietals of Italy are in Australia. People aren't returning emails. People aren't returning phone calls. You're starting this business. You make your own wine. How had you started making your own wine before importing? So you micro wines, which I had your Cinso.
Certainly.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
So that happened. 2018 was the first vintage, and made the Shiraz, and had connected with Gordon Little Peacock, and was like, hey, I made some wine. I'll consign it to you. I'll sell it to all my friends. Just clear it. Take a market. Just take the wine. I'll figure out how to sell it. And he's like, okay, I don't have to pay you till it's gone, so fine. and he was just generous enough to do that. And I'm not saying that jokingly. He took it on. He didn't have to. So we got a pallet of the wine into New York. I had some had a bunch still in Australia. Sold a little bit to some people in Australia, and then had the remainder of it come over to the West Coast. I guess probably a year and a half ago, and kind of went on from there. And it was always meant to. I was realizing after spending quite a bit of time working harvest, more time in Australia than I had in the U.S., that my relationship with wine had only been from the very end of its life, from post-bottle, usually from when it's opened. And there's so much that happens before. It's really just the final mile. And started doing this and just had so many aha moments and wanted to keep doing it. And that's why it started. It wasn't to start a business. It was like, I just want to do this and see what happens. And was afforded the opportunity because had made some really great friends in Australia that were winemakers, or owned their own label or owned a winery, and they were just really generous and open with their time and said, yeah, like, buy some fruit. I'll put you in the corner of the winery over there. I'll make sure you don't screw it up, but I won't touch it if you don't want me to, and that's fine. And it just happened. And it wouldn't have happened not living, I don't know, it could have happened in the U.S., but it just seemed very easy to do, or at least there wasn't as much resistance. It was a really open, welcoming community. And continued from there. In 2019, I did a Cinsault, Pinot Gris, and Shiraz. And again, in 2020, the Pinot Gris is like a little collaborative thing with the person that I share winemaking space.
That's who I was like, we're missing a Nebbiolo that we absolutely love, and it's Sierra Reed's.
Okay, talk about that.
It'll be at the tasting.
Okay.
I was like, who are we not saying? Sierra is she's American as well, but she's been in Australia for, I don't know, maybe close to a decade now. And John makes his wine at her facility now. She's been very generous to us and to him, and she makes just incredible wine. It was funny. We were kind of, when I was tasting wine for Attica and John was tasting wine for Rockpool, we were kind of on the premium train of people coming to show wine, so we'd kind of get a lot of the same winemakers in town would hit both of us on the same day, and we just both came home from work and we were like, did you taste the Sierra Reed wines? We're just like, they're so good. Just phenomenal balance and nuance. And she doesn't own her own vineyard. She sources from sites she thinks are really unique. So she makes everything from Riesling to Grenache, Shiraz, and Nebbiolo, and did a Pinot Gris collaboration with John. Sorry, I had to.
No, for sure.
No, don't be sorry.
No, not at all. 2021 was going to be the vintage where we really kind of ramped up production because it was looking like it was going to be an abundant harvest and so on. And I say ramp up, like add some more stuff. But Australia didn't let me into the country this year, so there's not a 2021 vintage.
Oh, right.
It was a pretty incredible response. It was kind of please show us that your contribution to our economy is greater than the risk to the community that you'll pose. It's like, can't do that.
It's interesting. You gotta.
No, I'm good.
You gotta. I have to respect that.
Oh yeah.
That's the opposite of what went on here. Just literally the opposite.
The exact opposite.
So, do you represent her wines here? Hopefully,
we do. Yes,
we do. Okay. I was like, I hope this is here.
No, we definitely do.
So how do people, like, how do you become an importer? Like, how does it?
We, like we said, investors stopped entering emails, and we just looked at each other and we're like, what do we do? We're not going to get a job. It's COVID. We can't go work in a restaurant. We can try to go. We've been out of the country for 3 years. Like, what do? We really feel that we want to do this. And we looked at each other and said, listen, everyone that we're bringing over is someone we already have in a relationship with. We had their wines on our lists in Australia. We know who they are. Maybe they'll have some faith in us and give us some terms. And, whatever little money we had saved up, we spent on logistics and air freighting some samples over so we can get a head start before the wine landed. And that's exactly what happened. So over the summer, we just kind of figured out things. And, you talk about, you got to, I know you said you have a law degree, but get a lawyer to help you fill out a permit application.
But I'm not
and
a
this and that.
lawyer.
No, I know. but
Don't come to me for. I'm gonna tell you. You gotta go to this guy I went to law school with, man.
But it was one of those things where we didn't have the money to hire someone to do all that stuff for us, so we just figured it out and kind of did it ourselves and made mistakes along the way.
Yeah, we talked to everyone we could who's done this before, who's currently we talked to Lyle. We're like, tell us what you do.
Right.
A good friend of mine, Erin Drain, she works for Ole and Obrigado.
Yeah.
She was really helpful.
We
Ken Fredrickson, who has a spirits importing company, High Road.
We talked to one of the guys who founded Brooklyn Brewery about distribution, like all sorts of things. And we just kind of went back and forth. We were originally going to try and self-distribute and focus on one state and build. And we realized that for a variety of reasons, that wouldn't have helped us find any success. Especially in a time like COVID, to be an Australian-only distributor, no one would open an account with us. It would have been very hard to work with us. So we kind of just really had a good reality check trying to start this in COVID. So we air freighted samples over. They got over in August, and we hit the road driving. My grandfather's, when we got back from Australia, my late grandfather's Ford Taurus was sitting in front of the house, my parents' house, it was an 05 Ford Taurus with 40,000 miles on it. And now it has 65,000 miles on it in 7 months. And we just kind of hit the road showing wines with masks on outside to people who would look at them and guilting people into buy our wines.
Definitely kind of our business plan was originally, let's be in New York and California and Illinois, like let's be in the big major cities, let's be in Michelin-starred restaurants, and that was kind of our background. That was kind of where we wanted wines to be, and when COVID hit, it was kind of like, well, all bets are off. Let's just see who's ready to take some new wine.
Who's buying wine?
Exactly. Right.
And so it was really interesting. It was like our first couple markets were like Tennessee and Vermont. Vermont was our largest initial order. But it's very cool. I feel like we're lucky that we're coming in at that time. If we'd started a year before, we would have built all these systems for
for
a world that didn't exist.
Right, exactly. Good point.
So it was in a sense, although it was hard to see it at the time, at the more stressful moments, we feel now like this was the right time to start this company, and that people are eager for new wines, but also new education and new exposure to regions and just new way of doing things, and we've kind of just got to jump in and decide how we wanted to do business.
And it's not all sunshine and daisies. We've not paid ourselves. We've not earned money really in over a year. And we've taken all of our savings and put it into this, and we have enough cash flow to pay for us being on the road selling wine. Otherwise, we're living at our parents' house to get this started. But it's been something where we both feel strongly enough about this that we'll do whatever it takes.
Well, and it's it feels like in some ways it feels like it's not work. That we get to work for ourselves. We get flexibility. We get mobility. We can be in New York today and we can be in Nashville tomorrow, and we're working, and just kind of juxtaposing that lifestyle with the restaurant lifestyle where there's zero mobility and flexibility. It's been great. It's been really nice.
So let's talk about your book. We're drinking this wonderful sparkling wine, but I know you. So would you say your book it's mid to high end, or what's kind of because I say this because I want to get to the special bottle. They got some shit in their book, people, and I don't mean I'm the good shit type shit,
We and COVID was trying to spotlight on this. We want to be able to sell wine to everyone, everywhere. We want to be a meaningful supplier for our distributors, and so right now our book starts at $20 retail and goes to $1,000 retail, but the bulk of it is sub 40 retail or sub 45 retail, with a really good swath of things in kind of the mid 20s and low 30s. you know, and I think that's kind of, it's just so funny when you think about, when you come at it from working in restaurants, you're like, oh, a $90, $85 bottle of wine on a restaurant seems in the mid-range or maybe
Right.
on the low range, especially
Right.
in places like EMP.
Where you guys were, yeah.
But then a $30,
Retail,
$40 bottle, we were in retail, and I thought, I'm like, oh, $40 retail, that's a lot of money. I even say that. And $80 on a wine list, I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Pop two.
Right. It's so true.
So it's crazy. So we really took a look at this book and said, okay, we want to do this. How do we do this through retail and make that the cornerstone? Because, you know, you always hear that brands are built in restaurants, and we really believe that that's not necessarily the case. That when you have a retailer that says, wow, what these guys are doing is awesome, and sends out a blurb about their mailing list, speaking the praise of or praising a wine and so on, that's where brands are built in a lot of ways. You know, we talk about Crush, Built, and Venate and things like that. And
I remember coming up in wine and getting Crush and Chambers Street and Garage East and getting those emails, and that was how I was introduced to so many producers. So, you know, that was I think another benefit of COVID is it made us think about the book in a more kind of retail focused fashion, where, you know, I think given our backgrounds, we would have naturally sort of gravitated to thinking about restaurants. It really made us think about, you know, how things would be priced and what would be appealing for retail. And so, yeah, I mean, I think our book,
we didn't sacrifice anyone. Everything that we went to work with was built on pre-existing relationships, and everyone fit in.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we're super proud of every one of our producers, and they really do. It's been really exciting to see when we do kind of big tastings where we show people 10 or even 15 different producers of ours. There's different favorites every time, you know, and I think that's been so cool for us to see, because, you know, I think that it would have been so sad if we kind of had producers that we really believed in that like just weren't getting the love from buyers. But it's really just like it depends on the person and the day and where they're selling wine. And you know, we always say we want to sell wine at like, you know, a steakhouse in Montana and a natural wine bar in Brooklyn, and we really think we have something to make everyone happy. But one thing I really love about our portfolio is I think it really does have those, like, as I was saying earlier, kind of those really varietally correct, but sort of slightly Australianized wines.
Just amplified
A
little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
That, you know, they're not like the super natty end of the spectrum. They're not the super kind of ripe oaky end of the spectrum. They're just like delicious, drinkable, varietally correct, interesting, complex, you know, everything from Riesling to Grenache to Nebbiolo to Greco. Like, a lot of the wines we have really fit in that category.
So you have a really special wine in your book.
Yes.
That I actually had talked about on an IG Live with the Australian wine guy. I didn't realize it was in your book, and you know, because I'm learning more about Australian wines, you know, because my introduction to Australian wines, I lived in California, the Central Coast, lived in Santa Barbara. Grateful Palate was down in Oxnard. They were bringing in those 98-point bangers, and I was young, so I didn't care, man. Just bring it on. Give me the 17.5% Shiraz. I'll do it.
There is that was kind of the first style that the U.S. was really introduced to, and you know, I think that style has its place, and we definitely have wines in our portfolio that would fit in that more traditional paradigm. But I think always seeking out balance, you know.
Of course.
But that's not to say things can't find balance at 16% alcohol, you know.
That's very true too. So what do we got here? This is a cute. I got this wooden box.
Yeah,
I gotta put these videos up. You gotta see this is like a scene from like the light just came out like Pulp Fiction.
So this is a wine, and this bottle, this box has been around a bit. So I did a lot of work with Seppelsfield when I was at Rockpool. We actually took over this lobby bar in a hotel and got a bunch of their barrels from their tawnies recoopered, turned into a cocktail program, and they gave me a bottle of the 1920 as like a going away gift. So that's what the remnants of this is, but we brought it because we wanted you to check it out.
Oh my God! So this is tell everybody what this is.
So this is in 1878. The Seppeltsfield family, they had already been making fortified wines, and very tawny-like. So they were more moderate in style for fortified wines, made just like traditional port would be, where it was fortified very early in its time, and would end up being a pretty pale-colored wine because it only had about 3 days of skin maceration, and then barrel-aged. And what they did every year, starting in 1878, is they laid down 2 puncheons, or about 1,000 liters of this fortified wine, to not be released until 100 years later. So since 1978, this is essentially the 42nd release of a 100-year-old wine that has spent 100 years in barrel, is all estate-grown fruit, and yeah. So they have this. There's actually a little picture in here. You can see their little their cellar. They call it their centennial cellar. They have every barrel back there back to 1878. They have a cooper on site that refits barrels to the volume of the wine that they have for each year. And we get a little allocation of them. What we're doing right now is we're about to put out a DI offer through retailers, through distributors throughout our network and partners, because no one wants to sit on inventory of this stuff. It's way too expensive.
I was like, no, this needs to be sold before it comes to the damn door, bro.
But what's cool is, they'll put people's name on it. So if you're like, okay, I'm going to get this for someone for the holidays, I'm going to put their name on it. The winery bottles to order, puts people's name on it, numbered certificate. Yeah. So this is, and it just gets more and more dense and intense, and is very cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Can I pour you some?
Yeah, you gotta try.
When you're done with that. There's one person on Thursday we want to check this out, but the rest of it is up for grabs. It's nuts, and it's one of those things where we talk about 100-year-old wine or super-year-old wine, old port, old Madeira. Madeira can spend tons of time in barrel, but then it's usually transferred to demijohn after it's aged for 20, 30 years at its top end. Port, vintage ports in bottle. Tawny port would be in barrel, but usually bottled maybe 40 years later at max.
Right.
So nothing really spends all 100 years in wood.
Yeah, of like the 100-year products you could find, there's very few that would actually be 100 years in barrel.
Like
I don't think
super old, like cognac or Calvados and things like that, potentially.
Even, yeah.
Old brandies.
So it's an incredibly unique wine, and it's all estate grown.
Yeah. What fruit do they start with?
It's largely Grenache and Shiraz.
Okay.
It's crazy to think that.
I thought about that. Wow.
They do a bunch of fortifieds. They actually do things that are more sherry in style. They're drier and see some floor development. One of them is all Palmino, and others Grenache and Palomino. And this is kind of their centerpiece, but they've, in their 170 years of existence, have amassed a pretty incredible portfolio of vineyards across the Barossa. So they do really juicy, delicious Grenache for $22 retail that we work with.
My favorite is Grenache. I'm a Grenache. That's why I'm so excited about exploring Australia.
Yeah, I agree. I think Grenache is it's one of my favorite grapes overall, but definitely one of the most exciting things happening in Australia, for sure.
Wow. This is just something I'm just like, I will drink it, but I'm just smelling. You have to just. It's just like.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts, and I will say, when you drink it and you put the bubbles in the washed glass of that.
Oh, I was waiting to do it. Yeah,
that's gonna be real good.
That's what you read my mind. See, that's that Jersey thinking. I was like, really this is gonna be good. This is gonna be really good. But like rinsing the glass is gonna be even nicer. I just thought it's gonna be super nice.
Save that for Ray.
Yeah. And one thing, just I really love that you guys have. During the pandemic, like it's helped shape your business, and I think it's really going to make it more sustainable, actually.
Yeah.
So?
Yeah, we hope so.
No, and I think it's we talk about this a lot in life. This pandemic has helped has helped some people figure out what matters more and most and what's important. And I think it's really kind of helped us see that in all walks of life, especially starting this business. And yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one day it'll be our livelihood and it'll be great.
Yeah, I think, we launched with this kind of set of values, kind of the core values of the company. And I think more and more businesses just have to think about, including restaurants, which, I hope that restaurants take this opportunity to sort of reset and think about how they can be sustainable businesses for their employees, for the environment. I think if we can't be sustainable in terms of labor practices and environmental practices, like that should be taken into account when determining if your business is financially sustainable.
Yeah.
So we're doing our best to take all of those issues into account.
Very cool. So what are you, as people are getting vaccinated, things are beginning to open back up. And I'm going to say that question because I'm looking and Tasmania. I know the Tasmanian devil. Talk a bit about, so this sparkling wine's from Tasmania. So how many producers do you have in Tasmania, and where's that in relationship to the coast of Australia? Just
Sure.
a little, because we have some time, and I see that, and what's primarily grows really well in Tasmania?
Sure.
So Tasmania is actually the coolest climate for wine growing in Australia. The coolest climate in Australia. It's an island. It is about a 45-minute plane flight from Melbourne, so off kind of the southeastern corner of Australia. It's, what do we say? It's about the size of West Virginia, but with 18% of the population. There's kind of mountains running down kind of the center of the island, and so the whole west coast is sort of a temperate rainforest. It's not very populated.
Mm-hmm.
And the east coast is the most beautiful place you'll ever go to in your life. It's absolutely spectacular.
Temperate rainforest is pretty too.
Probably is. I have not been. I don't think you have been either.
No, I've seen pictures.
And yeah, I mean, it's a oasis for all sorts of different agriculture, like incredible food overall in Tasmania. There's two major cities, Hobart in the south and Launceston in the north. Still, relatively small cities, but cool vibes, like great restaurant scene, great wine scenes. So, but you're looking at a lot of sparkling wine. Kind of Tasmania was originally really known for its sparkling wine. Great Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Riesling, but really great, like kind of cool climate Syrah too, and Cabernet even.
It's interesting. It's a place that's as like from a degree day kind of climate scale. It's right on par with. It sits between Dijon and Chablis as far as temperature, but its sunshine hours are closer, are more like Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So you have this juxtaposition of cold but a lot of sun. So you can achieve ripeness in some years with things like Cabernet or Syrah, but it's super marginal, and kind of pretty interesting in that sense. And most vineyard areas are hugging the coast, so along the north coast, along the east coast, and then around the kind of estuaries of Hobart.
Our other Tasmanian producer does a lot of work with Alsatian varieties, so Riesling, Gewürztraminer, Pinot Gris, and just like finds phenomenal balance. There isn't really, I don't think there's quite the moisture to get botrytis. Maybe you could in certain years in some places, but kind of that combination of cool climate but high sunshine. She's making Riesling that's 13.5% alcohol, like kind of an Alsatian style, but that's really fresh, really clean, great acidity.
Still has some sweetness to it and texture, and it's really fun.
Those ones are.
We've got
You'll taste our Riesling on this.
Cool.
And there's some other producers that we're in talks with to start with their 2021 vintage, which was just picked, and some Pinot Noir, some Chardonnay, and things like that. But it's an incredible place. Tasmania in November of 2020 became 100% reliant on renewable energy. Oh, wow. And is where the world, so there's, different places we measure air quality across the country, across the globe. And there's a weather station in northwestern Tasmania that's essentially the base station. So that's the cleanest air in the world. And essentially, when that moves, then we know everywhere else is degrading. So that's kind of the
Okay.
Tasmania is pretty much Tasmania, New Zealand, that part of the world. It's like if there's nowhere else to go there.
Right.
Maybe go there now.
I know. I was like, I'm thinking, good thing I got friends in New Zealand. So, as I was saying before, like that, I was like Tasmania. Things are opening up. What are you guys most excited about in 2021 with Legend Imports?
And I think it'll be. We actually did our first wine dinner in New Orleans a couple, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks back now, which was really fun. I think, doing more of that kind of like tastings and dinners and sort of that normal stuff that was once normal will be really fun, just to kind of, really get to talk about these wines and really see people interacting with them. So I think we're looking forward to that. We're actually think this will be its like first official announcement, but we're writing an Australian wine book.
Oh, yes.
So that is going to be a big part of our spring and summer is pulling that together. But we're really excited about that, and we think we're one of the authors is a cartographer, so it's all original maps, and it's the same publisher who published my first book. So and they're amazing. So it's
and they love you.
Yeah. They do love me. Clearly, they at least love me enough to work with me again. So we're really excited about that, and that'll be out next year. But will definitely be a big part of our lives this year.
And next year when it comes out, I think we were doing. It's funny you mentioned Tasmania. We were doing a virtual kind of wine thing with an amazing tasting group in LA that Christy Norman runs with Wine Australia, and we were getting questions like, asking about Tasmania, if Australians have kind of like fun, like sporty animosity towards Tasmania being, and other New Zealand wines. And it was like, well, people don't, there's like very basic stuff that people just have yet to really understand about Australia. And we really, there's just so much that we can do as far as spreading kind of, information so I think we're just really excited to just share all of the stories and information that we can about Australia.
And really kind of pushing regionality too. I think that's something, when you look at if you look at Australian wines on a wine list or in a wine store, there's an Australian section. There's not a Yarra Valley, Margaret River,
McLaren Vale,
exactly.
And
so
it's
that's
dusty and in the back and on the bottom, and
And there's a floor stack of yellowtail right in the front of the shop.
So I think, I think a lot of wine regions have had that sort of renaissance. If you think about like even Spain, 15 or 20 years ago, people weren't talking about like Mentrida and Granada and, and Rias Baixas even, you were talking maybe about Rioja and Ribera del Duero.
That's it.
So I think it's really time for Australia and for people to get to know these regions. And, there's regions we're importing that just were not imported before, and important, like significant premium wine regions. So it's we're excited to spread the gospel of Australian wine.
Well, that's awesome. I'm thinking of titles for this show, but
some Australian puns or something.
I was like, don't do the minute work thing. But you guys, I can't wait. We'll have you back once the book is published.
We'd love that.
Talk about the book.
We'd love that.
Thank you so much for coming in, and we need more time, but like, thank you. I learned a ton. I hope people learned a ton. I'm excited I get to go to the tasting. But tell everybody where they can find you on social media, your websites, where they can find you, and how they can be a part of what you're doing.
Yeah, our website is legendaustralia.com. Our Instagram handle is Oz Wine Legends, AUS Wine Legends. I think there was a lot of things that weren't available to get us to that one, but we like it. And
everyone wants to be a legend. But and to give you a quick snapshot about that, legend is a word that's used every day, all day in Australia. Everything, You hold the door open for someone, you're a legend. You get someone a coffee, you're a legend. You find your keys, legend.
It's like they're awesome, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
like when I would place orders with my, my distributors, my reps, I would get a response back, "Thanks, legend." I'm just like, oh my gosh.
That's so positive, though, right?
Yeah,
like,
it's
that'll
nice.
make you feel good, right? Like, yeah. So that'll be the legend of John and Jane. Two American kids trying to make it in the downland, trying to make it in Queensland. All right, everybody. Oh, my God. Amazing couple, beautiful people, fun people, smart people, a lot of passion for wine, for hospitality, for each other, for life. Thank you for being here. Everybody, until next time, cheers to the Mavericks, the philosophers, the deep thinkers, and the wine drinkers. We've covered all those with this couple. Thank you so much. Until next time, it's your boy, MJ. Peace.